Do we?
And is it a way to add me to your live? So you know what? Are you following me on my personal page?
Yeah.
I got
I
more.
probably have a low podcast.
The Corona Hosey one.
Nah, not the one.
That one has more people, but we can do it on Blown Bubbles. That's fine. Add me to it. Let me see if I can find you. You're live currently. Hey, 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 what's good? What's good? Welcome to another edition of the Blowing Bubbles podcast, live at 8:45. We got our first in-house studio guest. Yes, yes, yes. What's up? So give me a hot second. I'm going to try to set him up on his live so that I can go on his page as well.
You going to the Blowing Bubbles, or you just going? Because
Yeah, we can
I got a public page. If you go on your personal page, you can just tune in, just request to join. I add.
Okay.
Again, I'm penitentiary, so you have to tell me how to do this.
I'm going to have to figure it out. Okay, so you are live there. Corona Hosey, join, request to join. So send request. It should pop up on your screen. What's poppin'? We in this piece. Okay, where my YouTube at? So I'm trying to get as many people as possible to join on YouTube. And why? Because I need my watch hours up. Period. So Blowing Bubbles podcast on YouTube.
Are you on? On mine?
I'm on yours. Yep.
I would use the double screen popping up.
Oh, you know what? Did I request to join this? I can't see. White shirt is. Okay. I'm on, I think. Hey, do I not see? Am I not on there?
I don't know. You was up there, then you popped off.
Request to join. Okay. Oh, you know what I did? I had the sound is gonna be a little goofy. I'm gonna take this phone out of the room. So we don't get any reverb. That's the problem.
Hold on for technical difficulties.
Oh, they won't be able to see. All right, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We will figure it out. I'm here. I'm back. No worries. We're gonna get it. This is live. People have technical issues. All that. All right, so welcome. I got to set up the tripod. No. Tripod and drink.
No, mine's still up.
All right, all right, all right. What's good, everybody? Hey, there we go. There we go.
Ugh.
All right, all right, all right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Now you can move that arm if you want.
Taking my show, trying to get a little comfortable with this. Hmm.
So this is live at 8:45. We got some different stuff going on this evening. I now have a set where I will be doing in-person guests, not just split screen. So today I have the honor of having this very intelligent, deep young brother here, and I'm gonna let him introduce himself. He goes by the name of I Am, but I want him to tell you about his name and his story. So tell us your name, man. Well, as I said, I am, but I'm sorry. What does that name mean to you?
Now you good, Queen. Peace and blessings. My name is I Am. I'm gonna give y'all a few reasons how I got the name I Am. The most easiest version, while I was in Arkansas, I was incarcerated. My original surname was Delgado. While I was incarcerated, I began to get more of knowledge itself from the teachings my mother gave me when I was a child. Come to the realization that Delgado is a Spanish name. That's the name of Europeans. I'm not European. That's the name of the people that conquered us. So I knew that was a name not befitting for me. So from the moment I got to prison up until 2022, I went through a series of names I tried to get put as my last name, but the courts would not approve it. Finally, I came across my grandfather's first name. They give y'all a little bit of my background. My blood father's from Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, they actually don't have last names. What the men do, people do, period, they take on the first name of their parent as their surname. So my father's name being Berhani Malis, Malis is actually my grandfather's name. At the time, I didn't know this. I thought that was just his last name. Because my father chose to walk out my life, though, he dishonored the bloodline. So I technically couldn't take on his first name as my surname. So I decided to add on my grandfather's name. On top of that, this word one of my Muslim brothers had gave me called Maleen, which means to purify oneself, a laxative actually. So I decided to combine that name Maleen with my grandfather's first name Malis, which means he returns, and made the word Malisi, which means he comes clean. We are. So while at one of our job sites one day, a couple guys and I, we were just having a random conversation. One of my bros, he just asked, "Hey, if everybody put their name in an acronym, what would your name be?" Everybody got like a stupid name. People name being Chick, KLJ, TMA. So they asked me what mine is using my new surname. I says IAM. One of my bros said, "Your name is I Am?" I said, "Shit, yeah, I guess." He's like, "Bro, that's really fire."
Wow.
But then the name went to deeper context. I'm a very spiritual person. And I'll just say, a lot of people say spiritual, they be on some odd stuff nowadays. But I started looking at the name of the Most High. We give the Most High so many names. I'm Muslim, we call Most High Allah. Christians may say Jesus or Yahweh, whichever's befitting. You got the Buddhists, you got Krishna. But when Moses was having a conversation with the Most High at the burning bush, he asked, like, who am I going to say sent me to give this message? The Most High just said, I am. That's all you have to say. Us, we being direct descendants of the Most High, us sharing the same gene makeup of the Most High, every one of us is miniature I ams. So by calling myself I am is me acknowledging I come from this bloodline of the Most High, of the God itself. And then also by calling myself I am, that's my reminder of constantly being in who I am at this moment, not reliving the past of who I was, adopting old behavior traits I don't really care for no more, not living in the image of what other people perceive me to be. I'm always living in the state of who I'm supposed to be.
Dope. That's so dope. Wow. Okay. So let's start to peel back the layers. You said your father walked out, have you ever at any time had a relationship with your father?
I had brief memories of him when I was a child, like before the age of 5. He come around like every blue moon, short-lived visits. Most of the times he just come and see me for a second, but then go to see my mother particularly.
Mm, okay. And were they ever married?
No.
Hmm. And so from the time you were about 5 till now, have you seen him or had any dealings with him?
2 months after I was released from prison, actually, I'll go a little further back. I'll go a little further back. When I was about 8 years old, we stayed on 73rd Street. It's in Southwest Philly. I believe we stayed on 73rd, or that was Theodore and Buis. Same area though, right next to each other. I had this thing where I always jumped on my mother's bed. It pissed my mother off. So I'm jumping on the bed one day, and I could hear like tapping on the window. Man, we stay on the second floor. So I go to the window. This skinny looking weird man downstairs. I open the window, I ask, "Who are you?" He said my name. I said, "What's up with you?" He said, "I'm your dad." As soon as he said, I said, "I'm finna go get my mom." He said, "Please don't get your mother. Please don't get your mother." I went to go get my mom. I told her to come here. I rushed her. And she asked what happened. I said, "Man, there was a man downstairs and he was claiming to be my dad." I'll never forget the look my mother gave me. She gave me this very stern look, like water her eyes, and say, "Don't ever go to that window ever again." Days later, I seen her and that same man talking while I was out with my homeboys riding scooters. And that was the last time.
Wow. So even preteen years, it's the last time. Wow.
And I was 8 when that happened.
Hmm.
Fast forward. There was a brief little moment in prison, but I never got in contact with him. He actually reached out to my mother and was trying to use me to hook up with my mother. But fast forward that, I get out of prison. It's 2022. If anybody doesn't know, I just did 7 years in the state of Arkansas prison. Don't ever go to Arkansas.
Don't go to prison. But
Arkansas and prison are the same word. But it's 2 months after I got out of prison. I'm looking for my son's mother so I can find my son. I'm curious though. The means I used to find her, I said, I wonder if I could find my pops using this. He's an immigrant, so I know this is probably real slim chances. I find the information though. There's 3 numbers they gave me. Call the first two, they both disconnected. Third number, it goes through. I get a response. I recognized the voice, never forgot the voice. I told him who I was. He hung up on me. I called
so
back.
you identified yourself and then he hung up on you.
Yeah. I called back. And when I called back, the person answered, but they didn't say anything. They were just on the other end with a lot of heavy breathing. And after 5 seconds, they just hung up again. And that was the end of it.
Wow. So what was going through your mind when you were hung up on by your sperm donor?
I'm not gonna call him that. He's when it's birthright, he's my father.
I
I'm
stand
gonna give
corrected.
him
You,
his
you,
respect.
you are correct. You are correct. What was going through your mind?
The first time he hung up on me, I thought it was on my end because the area we lived in, the service is real bad. Especially I got T-Mobile. T-Mobile's not as friendly as it used to be apparently with its services.
Okay.
So I thought the first one was on me. It wasn't until I called him back, and after that little brief period, he hung up. I realized, nah, both of those times was deliberate. This is not an accident because I'm calling back. It's going straight to voicemail. I'm texting. I'm leaving all type of messages. I'm really going frantic. I'm really enraged
Mm.
because that child in me finally took over. At that moment, I lost all for that split moment. I lost my emotional intelligence, and that child in me wanted some answers.
Yes. Yes. So has that feeling, has the drive for answers been kind of solved, or you okay with where you are now and your lack of a relationship with him?
I'll say there's more self solutions. Like one, the heartbreak behind that was I made an expectation that because of who I was and because I presented myself to him, he was finna accept me.
Mm,
But that's not the case. He left. So a part of that was
yeah,
I get made an expectation that wasn't based on no evidence of facts.
right. And it was actually to the contrary because he demonstrated all your early life that he was not going to be there consistently. Hmm. Has your mother had any communication with him?
From the experience in prison,
Uh, Now, how's your relationship with her?
we gotta put like a to be continued on one of these.
Oh,
Let's just say I love my mother to death, but
oh, okay.
the thing about my parents, they are who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that saved me a lot of grief as I got older. Once I started realizing I may have an image of who I feel the people in my life was supposed to be, but that's just my perception. That's not real. The
Hmm.
reality is everybody is who they are.
Yeah.
When you start seeing people for who they are, then you stop seeing them for who you think they should be. You see them for who they can be, but you never lose the image of what they could be.
Hmm.
You always look at a person's potential, but at some point that has to be based on some type of evidence. Marcus Garvey said in one of his teachings that when you meet people, remember everybody's their own person. Your child is their own person. You can have your perception of who you think they are, but when it's all said and done, they are a person.
Absolutely.
Even your siblings, your friends, before they were anything to you, they were their own people. And even after you, they're going to continue to be their own people. So that's
Hmm.
how I choose to deal with my parents. They are who they are, and I accept them for who they are. I'm not trying to
Gotcha.
change them.
Okay. Okay. So let me fast forward slightly. Your life has been somewhat fatherless in the present, in the sense of him being present on a consistent basis. So how do you then turn around and be a father? What does that feel like or look like to you? What is that journey? Tell me about that.
With not having my father, and I'm going to skip around that question a little bit to get to my answer.
Okay.
I don't know how most people see theirs. For me, I see more mine more as a blessing situation. Because one, because of who my father is, he's an Ethiopic man. If you've never really just dealt with them, they're very cultural, custom people. Like
Hmm.
it's you're now starting to meet a more generation than where they're open minded to different subjects. But from his generation, if I was to raise on them, there's none of that. They are very cultural customs. You believe what you
Absolutely.
believe, do what you do, think the way you think because of their customs. So by not having him and then even still having a strained relationship with my mother and my family, period, I had a lot of identity issues, but it also caused me to go on a journey for self and the search for truth. Like I remember one time in the 12th grade, we had a project, and my teacher asked me, "What's the most important thing to you in life?" And me is just knowing the truth, knowing why things are the way they are. Like I'm very infatuated with the concept of thinking.
Hmm.
I love just knowing what people think. So part of the identity issues is I always adopted other people's lifestyles. I just wanted to, and really, I just wanted to know why people think the way they think, why people do the way they do. What is it about people's thought process that makes them do the things that they do? What made me do the things I did? So,
Gotcha.
on that constant journey of truth, I got to see fatherhood from different perspectives. I got to see fatherhood from the guys that are emotionally absent from their children's lives, but they're present physically. I got to see fatherhood from a man who I respect dearly, who in my eyes, he is a great father. Until this day, he's still in my life and he played a father role in my life. I got to see fatherhood from a guy who's in my life, but his methods don't work. But I could see the emotion of what he was trying to accomplish. So I got to see the trial and errors of other men. I got to see the perspectives of other men. I just got to see how people think. But the biggest lesson for my father when I had my own son, and after going to prison and having to revamp the way my mindset is, my father left me the perfect example of what I don't want to be.
Yes, that's great. That's great. And how old is your son now?
He's 8 years old. We're about eye to eye with each other. He's like the same height. No, I'm not
Wow.
joking. Like I was buying him some shoes the other day, and I don't know nothing about kids' shoes, so his mom had to tell me the size, and I'm looking like these might be my damn size. Like I wear 8. Like I think I can fit these. Like he might
Wow.
not get these. He might get my shoes. I'm gonna keep these.
Wow. So you had a son and went to prison before he was one. If I'm calculating correctly, or right around his first birthday.
I went to prison. Well, I went to jail roughly a month and a half before he turned 1. But the last time I seen him when he was 8 months when I was in Atlanta, because mind you, I was in Arkansas.
Mm,
His mother, they're Atlanta natives.
okay.
So he has relatively no memories of me.
Wow. So were you able to maintain a long distance relationship with him while you were incarcerated?
Nope. Because of my own issues I had with women, from that lack of fatherhood of not knowing how to deal with women, but then also from my own emotional issues with my son's mother became, I don't want to say it, but like a punching bag. I never put my hands on her. Let me scratch
Okay.
that up. I never put my hands on her, but all the mental, emotional issues I had from my mother that I never had a chance to
You
take
dumped
out my
on her.
mother, she adopted them.
Mhm.
So when I became incarcerated, all those feelings were still there.
Yeah.
She wanted no dealings with me. Actually, in her mind, s- not allowing me to have that relationship with my son was finally that revenge she'd get on me for the mental abuse I put her through.
Mm, wow. Whew. So do you all have a good amicable relationship now?
It's developing. One thing you can't put a time on wounds.
Absolutely.
Like for me, I'm a person, I'm not gonna say I have thick skin. I know the value of time to the point nothing bothers me long. Like I don't hold grudges. I let things go. But that's not everybody's mindset. That's just my perception. And then everything hurts people differently. Like as much as I talk about the forgiveness of my father, that took years, like approximately 7 years to get to that point.
Mm, okay.
So we speak on things we use in a very loosely concept, but we don't really think of the time and the process that it took to get there. And that's the same with her. It took years just for her to get to states where she even would have a conversation with me. But before that was possible, I had to actually start rechanging my thinking because the whole reason we even had conflict with each other was because of me.
Mm,
Now I'm not
okay.
going to paint the picture she was perfect, but she actually tried to get along with me. I wasn't willing to do the same. Actually, there was even a time when, oh, I don't want to share this memory because it's a bad
Come on,
memory.
that you
It's a
can't you
bad
can't
memory.
hold back. Well,
It's a
whatever you're
bad
comfortable
memory. It was me, her mother, and her grandmother. I'm holding my son. We're in their living room. Her brother used to know what to say to just rub me off when it came to her. So one day he looked at me. He said, "If you and her had a child together, and it was a girl, would you name it after her?" I looked at her and I said, "I wouldn't name a dog after that." In front of her grandmother.
with.
You see, stuff like that creates
Mm,
conflict.
of course.
So when I got to prison, I told myself, from now on, if I get a chance to talk to my son's mother, I'm going to be nice. I'm going to be nice. The first time I heard her voice, all that went out the window.
Mm,
I tried to hold on to my patience, but I started the conversation off wrong by saying, I don't want to speak to you. I only want to speak to my son. Open the room for argument. We went off on each other. Later on that day, one of my Muslim brothers, he told me, this is what you need to do. You need to write a letter. I'm pretty sure you've heard this exercise before. Anybody that makes you mad, write a letter how you feel, but don't send it to them. Just read over it and let it go. I did half of that exercise right.
what did you do? How did you? You sent it. Oh,
It's not funny. It is
not at
not
all.
funny. And I told him, I said, brother, I wrote the letter. He's like, that's good, little bro. I said, I sent it. He looked at me like, You did what? But I'm getting to the point that years went by where I literally had to change the way I think because I had to get over issues I had with my mother that was preventing me from even want to have that cordialness with her. So when she would hit me up and she want to start arguing, that's not my mindset. Like, hey, you're not my enemy. I don't have no beef with you. You're my son's mother. I respect you. I love you for that. When you're ready to speak, we can speak. So now the dynamic stopped changing from her cussing me out. So she may want to argue, but she's not cussing me out no more.
Okay.
Now she's actually starting to sound confused because consistently I'm not bringing that energy no more.
Right. A person can't argue. No, listen, you can't argue by yourself. You can't. You're gonna sound like a goofball. When I learned that, when I figured out, because I have a kind of a fighter's nature, and I had to learn how to squash that. And I learned that my best revenge is to shut up and or walk away. And it takes so much discipline and so much growth. But you can let a person stew in their own juices and figure out that energy by themselves, but not going in to that space is so mature. Oh my gosh, I felt good when I finally mastered that. Woo! I can't imagine having to do it after being away from your child, and this is still a child, and you still have to deal with this woman. So how is the relationship with your son?
It's interesting. Like I said, he had no memories of me,
Mhm.
both past and present. So my son's mother, before I was incarcerated, she was dating a guy. He ended up playing the role of stepfather for my son while I was gone, and I give him his flowers for that because he didn't have to do that. She ended up having two children by him. So in her mind, she actually thought I don't know what was going on in my mind. I actually think she never thought I was gonna come home. So she led my son believe this was his blood father.
Oh.
So as I'm getting closer to coming home, I'm explaining to her, you're gonna have to tell him, and I don't care what you tell him, but I'm finna come see my son soon. Like I don't care what you got to tell him, but you need to figure out a way to tell him the truth, because I'm coming. She told him 3 days before his 8th birthday who I was, and he asked if he could talk to me. And it was actually a cool conversation.
Okay.
In certain ways, he reminds me of myself, but then he also reminds me of her. A lot of the qualities I do like about her.
That's good. That's good. Wow. I wanna make sure um, that we definitely keep in touch, and I want to see how your family evolves and grows. I would love to follow your journey and let people out there see a good example of that deliberate healing. Healing is a journey, but it's also a decision that you'll never get there if you don't ever choose to take that step toward it. So I would love if you would agree to come back one day and maybe a year or so. I want to see 10-year-old what I don't want to say your son's name, but your 10-year-old son's growth. What your relationship is like then. I have a strong passion for supporting co-parenting, and I don't understand from a woman's perspective, ladies. Hear me loud and clear. If that man is not abusing your child, there is not another excuse on this planet for you to keep him away from his children. And I mean that to my core. Not one. I've been through hell and high water. Not one time did I ever interfere. Never. I don't I don't see a reason. So I would love to follow your journey and your growth. I know it's going to be growth. I feel that in my spirit because you've committed to that growth. So I'm excited.
Yeah. A part of that self healing is you have to go on the stage of one self discovery and also self reconciliation.
Yes.
A lot of us are living with hurts and most of us don't even know we're hurting. Most because a lot of us have coping mechanisms. Like for me, I smoked weed every second of my day,
Mm.
especially after I left and separated from my son and went to Arkansas. I never had a sober moment. I didn't even know what that felt like.
Wow. What made you go to Arkansas?
Well, as you can tell from this bandana on my head, at one point in my life, I stood on the side that was the color blue. I stood for a particular set, and I built a name for myself. Of course, that comes with consequences, though.
Okay.
There were times where my son's mother did not want me to take my son out with me, and I actually didn't fight that because I know I have dudes hoping to catch me slipping. And one of the worst things I could ever think could happen is someone catches me while I'm with my son. Like I could stomach it happen to me. I can't stomach it happen to my baby.
Right.
And around this time in 2014, 15, all my homeboys were dying. It didn't matter what affiliation they stood with. It didn't matter who side was on who. Everybody was dying. Nobody was getting past the age of 20. I was rational enough to realize I do the same things they do. Some a little bit more than some, a little bit less than some. Nevertheless, everybody in this life is dying. None of us are quick to walk away from it. I have to go. I think one of the real life changing events that because I came back to Atlanta actually when we was in college. I was in the summer session. Came back for break. If you've never been to Arkansas, it's so slow. I don't mean mindset. I just mean the
Laid back.
lifestyle. It's
I've
real
been there.
slow. I'm already from Philly. That's a major city. Coming to Atlanta was like a slowdown from Philly. So imagine leaving from Atlanta, a city that really just now in its prime. You go to Little Rock, where their
Mhm.
population isn't even over, I think, 250,000. There's no real bus system, and any city that doesn't have a bus system is slow.
Yeah.
I was so bored and depressed. When I came back to Atlanta, I felt alive again. I'm telling people I'm never going back to Arkansas. While I was in Arkansas, there was a guy from Clayton County. He became my best friend so fast. He stopped me from making a mistake that probably would have got me sent to prison for the rest of my life while I was out there. We came back to Atlanta. We make plans to see each other, but when you come back to your home city, you fall back in the rhythm real fast, but them plans don't mean nothing no more.
Yeah.
And I'm steadily telling him I'm finna come see him. 2 weeks after we came back to Atlanta, his baby mama's boyfriend gunned him down
Oh.
for his birthday and a week before we were supposed to go back to college.
Mm.
And at that moment, I realized you have a great chance of dying in this city before your son even turns one. Because the irony in his situation, his baby wasn't even born yet.
Mm.
Actually, even before we came out here back to Atlanta, we were sitting on the porch one day smoking. It's a porch everybody at the college used to smoke on. And my guy didn't want to smoke that day, but he said, I'm gonna smoke with you just because I feel to make me more comfortable, say what I want to say. And my guy told me a premonition. He said, I can't shake this feeling if I go back to Atlanta. I'm not gonna make it back to Arkansas. At the time, I'm telling me he's tripping because my guy really a good dude. So when he got killed, one, I felt like a bad friend because I missed the signs. My friends really tell me he's afraid for his life, but I didn't do anything. Then I was going through a survivor's guilt. Like my guy just stopped me from making a mistake that would have cost my life in prison. I can't pay him back.
In a sense, you can pay him back by living the life that he encouraged you to live. That's the only way. And I know a lot of people that feel that survivor's guilt. That's that's a very real thing. Um, wow. So you went to college in Arkansas, and was this your first year in college that you got in trouble?
First few months,
Oh
I
man.
didn't make it even through a whole semester.
Wow.
And I'm explaining the mindset that got me there. Like, and it's this is the hypocrisy and the irony of the thinking. I left my city because I knew at some point I was going to die out here. So I went to a whole nother city and got involved with the exact same thing that I was running away from. And I'm doing it with dudes, whether they ever want to admit or not, they left their cities for the exact same reason.
Mhm.
Nobody wanted to lose their life to this. So part of me tagging along and doing what we did was like me trying to prove I'm still that guy that will get down. And that's stupid.
Yeah, yeah. Young men, young women. That's stupid. Find a lesson in somebody else's story. There's so many people who don't. They let lessons pass their face all day, every day. Wow. Okay, so you get locked up a couple months into being in Arkansas, go to jail, and then subsequently to prison. And you, how long did you serve in prison?
7 years. I was
Mm.
released 20 days early and 1 day before my birthday.
Now that's a gift. That's a gift. So you got to wake up your first day on your birthday.
Yep.
What a gift. So do you have, are you on parole or?
Yes, I'm currently on parole right now.
Okay,
My parole officer is super straight though, so it don't even feel like it.
that's good.
But you will get your parole fees this week. It's the first week of the month, so you will be coming.
That's good. That's good. Now, were you able to get paroled straight to Georgia, or you had to
Yes.
go? That's good.
It was like I was telling you earlier before we got on chat, I'm a fan of thinking, even thinking about the future. I actually was not supposed to even be able to parole out here. But 7 years ago, I had an epiphany and I had a plan. So I laid the seeds of that plan down and made sure the people involved were oblivious to their role in the plan. So when it finally came time for me to come home, the plan was already sewed in. Everybody fulfilled their role, and I was able to make it here off the technicality.
Are you able to elaborate?
I don't want to because if the wrong person sees this, I don't know if that technicality can be
Gotcha.
it can be
Gotcha.
untethered.
Mm,
Let's
gotcha.
just say everybody has a use in life. Like, and if you're listening to this, understand this. There's a difference from having a use and there's a difference from just using people.
Facts.
If you have no use, you have no value, which means there's no point you being around. I'm the type of person I don't even like being in people's vicinity if I have nothing to offer them. I just don't feel right. But I also like to feel the same way about the people around me. If you don't serve a use in my life, at some point you're just occupying space that could be used for someone more beneficial.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. 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 And how long you on paper?
For 3 years. At this
Oh,
point now, 2.5.
gotcha. You have come home and you are living a productive life. Just a few months. Got home in October, right?
Yes, ma'am. And got my first book coming out on June 18th,
Definitely, I
2023.
definitely leading to that. What's that date again? Your book drops
June 18th, 2023, on Father's Day, I'm
on
releasing my
Father's
book, Dad, I Love You, How to Love an Absent Father.
Woo. Okay, okay, okay. We gotta talk about that. How to love an absent father. There's so many levels of um, love, redemption, forgiveness. I can hear all kind of stuff in that. So, take me through this book. You're writing this book. You have what did you start with? Your journey as an absent father, your journey as a child of an absent father. What mentally, not necessarily physically writing, but where did you start in this journey of writing the book?
I'm going to tell you what actually inspired the book in the first place. After the event that happened with my father, I was left with this internal turmoil. I had entered a short story contest like months prior, even before getting out of prison. I'm a chronic procrastinator. I hadn't wrote nothing yet because I wasn't
Oh,
inspired. Then I had got an idea. I decided to look at things from my father's perspective the life he may be living at that moment, which I chose the life of a man who burnt his bridges, not living a right. Because if you're Ethiopian man, African period, and you abandon your children, your people want nothing to do with you. And then when you're an immigrant on top of that, if you can't fit in with your own people, nobody else really wants to deal with you. So I
Okay.
painted the picture of this man who lives in this decrepit apartment. He's isolated basically from life period. He goes to a job in and out every day. He gets fired from his job on his birthday. He comes home wondering how things could get any worse. Then he gets a phone call, and it's his son who he abandoned. He hangs up the phone, runs out the apartment, is about to run away because now he's thinking his son might know where he is. But he's angry now. He's angry that his son had the audacity to reach out to him. He calls him back and goes off on his son. He lets him know, I've never wanted to be a part of your life. Actually, didn't even want you to live. And he's asking, what do you want from me? And his son was calling him best to tell him, I love you. And I wrote a whole short story. Wrote a whole short story just from this one event. From my mind, what could have took place. Everybody's fictional. It's based off an event, but just my imagination on what could have been. Everybody's name is made up.
Okay. So it's loosely based on your experience, and then you created a story around your experience. Got
Yes.
it. Got it. Okay. And is he in Georgia? Is your dad?
He's in Philly.
Okay. Gotcha. Wow. Now, is there any part of the book that you write from the perspective of your son?
No. All the book is about my entire journey, period. I don't want to call it like an autobiography because it's not really that, because I don't just tell you the things in depth that happened in my life. I explain to you decisions I made throughout my life because of the absence of that father figure, and also because of the absence of identity. But that's as far as I go with it. I try to keep the story along the line where you can still see you in here so you can make the healing you need to make. If anybody's wondering, this book is mainly geared towards men. I actually wrote it for black men, period. But then I realized that absent fathers is not really it's not a black thing that happens in black people.
No.
It happens in all groups of people for different reasons, but it happens.
Yes.
But I wrote it from my journey that I've been through. The very first part of the book, the introduction, is the day my dad left. I actually watched my dad leave. Then I fast forward in the introduction, the day I called him. And I make sure in the end of that part, I let it be known that I love my absent father. So you already know the theme of the book. The book is split up in 4 parts. The first one is the effects of not having my father, the negative effects from how I perceive myself, my dealings with women, my attachment issues to others, my inability to accept authority from male figures. And the second book gets into the healing stage. I'm not going to dwell too much in the negative. The first part is just the relation. People, when they see me, they stereotype me. They hear I'm real proper. So, the gang affiliation, people would never picture it. Like the girl I ran into today at my job from my past. If I was to tell people the stuff I was into, they probably look like, eh. If she tell them, like, for real? And I'm glad, because I'm glad I don't come off as that guy.
Right.
Because I don't need to be people stereotyping me on a negative scope to that degree. But that's just for the relating, to let you know I relate to you. To whoever's reading this, I can relate to how you're feeling. The second part is the healing stage, though, because we finna focus on the healing period.
Great.
The third part is a chapter I wrote for single mothers raising sons on their own. And the part 2 of that is a chapter for absent fathers who may be searching to get back in their son's life but don't know how to. Then the last part is a bonus, which I'm not going to say on here, but it's a challenge that I pose for men. Really, anybody can take it on. The thing about this book, it's geared towards men. The language is geared towards men. But when you read it, it's based off of 4 pragmatic steps that anybody can apply, not even just with their father, but any relationship that you may have had, period, that didn't go the way you planned for it to go.
And is it being published to print or published like ebook only?
Oh, we going all in. We going
Nice.
all in. I'm gonna have printed copies. We're gonna have ebook. Today I spent 3.5 hours recording the audio book.
Nice. I can't wait to get this book and read it and share it. And I I look forward to somebody else being healed from reading it. Uh, I'm gonna keep a couple copies on hand, so when I see somebody that I think needs some guidance, and I don't know how to tell a man how to do things that a man needs to do, I'm gonna share it. I'm definitely gonna do that. Wow, interesting. Anything else going on in your life?
Man,
Uh oh, what's that smile? Uh oh, not. Wait a minute. Did he just blush?
right now I'm processing to be a member of the Nation of Islam under the tutelage of Louis Farrakhan.
Okay, okay, that's powerful. That
Hopefully,
is
that's gonna help me
powerful.
train for one of my biggest goals in life:
That's powerful. And what does that go?
marriage.
Ooh, love it. I am 100% team marriage. 100%.
Marriage was meant to me. I know marriage was meant for me because I was one of those people that never wanted to be married. I was okay hoeing for the rest of my life. It wasn't until 23 where I started thinking, marriage may not be that bad. I was about 26 when I said, yeah, I need to get married. Now I've still done some hoeing, up until this point, but I'm working on it so I can prepare for my future wife, whoever she is.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. That's beautiful. I love that commitment. A lot of men um, come into themselves in the nation. Um, I definitely love that commitment. It's a commitment. It's definitely a commitment. I applaud
Yeah. Advice I give any male, women, period, because now we're in a society where marriage is really frowned upon. To most people, marriage is just paperwork.
you. And it's not. I tell people, I got a story. No, it's not just paper.
What story you got? Hold up. We pulling the tea on
This
me. What
ain't my
story?
episode. This ain't.
It's your show though.
Yeah.
Oh, are we?
So marriage is more than just a piece of paper. And anybody who, especially if you have a relationship, a long-term relationship that you are acquiring things and you're building with this person, your partner, your spouse, um, it can all go away in the blink of an eye if you're not legally married in this country. Trust me, I know. Been there, done that. Got the scars to show.
And even on that note, see, like conversations like that don't make people look forward to marriage. That makes actually people feel like this is not really even a marriage. It's more so like a business arrangement at that point.
Well, that's I would say that's not a reason to shy away from marriage. It's more of a reason too. So, and I have a friend that she's associate. She's going through something similar to what I went through. Her fiance passed away a couple weeks ago, and she got to get out of the house because the house was that wasn't her husband, and her name wasn't on the house yet.
Yeah.
You
It's
know, it's not a it. For one, let me say this to be clear: marriage is very much like a business arrangement. You should be aligned in every sense. That's equally yoked. We know the scripture. If you're not like, I would never get with somebody who is has the potential to ruin what I've been building in my business. Why would I do that? That's foolish. He got to line up with my business. Even if he doesn't work in the same field, even if he does, he just got to line up. He got to compliment me. I have to be able to take my spouse with me to company function. Well, I'm an entrepreneur, but you know what I'm saying? I need my man to be able to support what I'm doing and vice versa. Yes, it's like a business arrangement. You know, you want to be able to compliment that person and they you. It should be looked like that. I am looking for the merger. I I tell people all the time, Coke won't buy Pepsi. They butt heads. They would never merge. One has to go away. So they can compete, but they can't merge. They won't merge. It doesn't make sense for either of the businesses, right? But Coke acquired Sprite or created Sprite, something to complement their product line. Pepsi got Sierra Mist. They just would not work well together. Think of your marriage like a product line. It needs to complement each other. You got to compliment her. He has to compliment me. Don't run for marriage. It's beautiful. I
Yeah.
love it. I don't regret my choice.
Yeah. We're not gonna get too much next. I think we got enough dating experts in these fields, but I'll give my opinion by saying, and I love the idea concept of marriage. Actually, marriage is one of my top three favorite topics of conversation because you can tell the morality of a person by how they perceive marriage. You can tell the morality of a nation by how they perceive marriage. Like I was having a conversation with a coworker, and I asked them, "What is the penalty of law in the United States if a husband cheats on his wife or a wife cheats on a husband? What's the penalty of law?"
And in the United States, I don't know that there are any states that still have adultery laws on the books.
Exactly. You can tell the level of their morality from moral
Hmm.
marriage. Suppose you go to a country like, I use a country. I'm trying to use a country that's not too out of there, but let's just use a country like, what's a country that takes marriage serious? Marriage serious.
Well,
We'll
you
just say a
got the Middle
country in the Middle
East.
East,
Hmm.
because we're not gonna use specific country because some of
Yeah,
them are out of there.
yeah.
But you got a country in the Middle East where if they was to actually go off the theologies they live by, marriage, a person who cheats in a marriage is punishable up till death. Because the concept of you destroying your family is symbolic to you waging treason against your nation.
Absolutely.
But in America, our country, I'm not saying the people, just saying our government doesn't uphold that type of morality.
Right, right.
So that's just one way of looking at marriage. But then on top of that, a lot of people in my mind shy away from marriage because nobody knows the concept of what marriage even means. Like marriage itself is a word that actually just means a covenant. Most people don't even know what that means. Then when it comes to actually selecting a partner, most of us don't even know how to do that. Like I was having a conversation with one of my guys, to anybody that's into it, I'm not knocking you. But my guy, he said, "Yeah, I'm finna leave black women alone, give me a white girl." And I said, "Don't you do that. Don't you do that to your mother." But I asked him why did he feel that way. He said, "Because I don't know, there's nowhere I can meet a good black woman." My guy's really smart. So I asked him, I said, "What do you like to do in your free time?" He said, "Bro, I like to read." I said, "Well, have you ever tried to pick up a shorty at a library?" He said, "Bro, who does that? The
Somebody
dude,
who likes to read.
the guy looking for the female who has the same interest as him." I said, "Where do you usually meet women at?" "Well, I go to the club." I said, "That's your problem. You're going to a place where nobody's in here trying to even be in a relationship.
Right,
Some of these people in here about to cheat in their relationship, but it's how you've been programmed to search for your mate. A lot of us don't
right.
know how to search for a mate. A lot of us don't know the. Have you ever read a book called the Kama Sutra?
I have
Which
long,
one?
long time ago.
Which one? Hold up. Hold, I gotta
I
ask. Which
don't
one?
know. What I didn't know there was. Well, I'm sure there's a lot, but
Did you leave like the one that focused solely on copulation, or the one that actually delved into the science of
the
love?
science,
Okay,
the
bet.
science. Yes, I read it like in the early '90s.
Okay, yeah. There's a guy named Alain Danielou. For anybody, I'm finna drop a gem for y'all because for whoever into marriage or dating and really is looking for a good spouse, you need to look up this book. It's called the Kama Sutra. Not this perverted version they got floating around just focusing on
Right,
sex
the physical,
positions.
yes.
It's the Kama Sutra transliterated by Alain Danielu. The original author is Vasyayana. He's a Hindu Brahmin. In the book, he lists 8 methods they use to determine the perfect spouse for somebody. I only know a few of them offhand, but their astrology, their class status, their national background. These were things like people actually looked for. They even went as far as to test the organ size, the reproductive organ size. Like there was a thing like right now we're on this frenzy of women wanting big energy. A lot of women's wombs aren't designed for that, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of guys want women who over sexualize. And if you get you a woman whose sexual energy is stronger than yours, that'll ruin your whole relationship. Because a man should not be with a woman he can't satisfy.
Absolutely. Gonna lose her quick.
But that book explains that to you.
Mhm.
We grow up in a society where we don't have rituals, we don't have mating rights. Actually, if you get even more deeper in it, animals do a better job of selecting mates. Why? Because they have rituals they abide by. I had the luxury of watching a bird ritual, and I didn't realize what it was till my mentor actually told me to observe the nature of animals, which means you even have to pay attention to season because animals act differently during different seasons.
Yes.
So I'm in prison. I'm watching out the bars. It's a literally a circle of birds, a perfect ring. There's 2 birds in the middle. They're pecking the life out of each other, fighting to the death. Originally, I thought it was like maybe for food or some territory, but then I thought about it. It's like spring, that's spring, summertime. This is mating season. They fighting to prove who's the perfect suitor. The bird that lost, actually, he didn't even die. He fled, which is worse than getting killed. Because at least in their rituals, if you die, that means you die with honor.
Yeah.
Running means you don't even have any honor. He flew away by himself. The bird that won, every female bird flew behind him. Now again, he's only going to select one of them, but because he passed a mating ritual, he has options. Now our only mating ritual is having a bag.
Yeah, that's a whole other episode.
Yeah. And I didn't want to get into this, but again, like I said, I'm very passionate about the concept of marriage because me, I know the value of marriage. My instructor, and I'm a name drop because I don't believe this brother gets enough flowers that he deserves. 19 keys.
Oh,
They giving him his praise, but I still don't think he getting as much as
he can get more.
flowers.
Yeah.
Like Louis Farrakhan. Louis Farrakhan still ain't, if I ain't think Louis Farrakhan should have been the president. United States would have been united in peace.
Ooh.
But the brother says there's 2 things that stops a man from becoming a man. The first thing is a lot of men don't tap into that feminine side of them, which, and I'm finna drop a jewel in my book. One of the chapters in my book is called Forgiveness. Words have mathematics. Words consist of other words that add up and mean a new word. So the word forgive, the last 3 letters of forgiveness is ESS. That actually means feminine energy. So forgiveness is an act, is a feminine act, but not to the negative side like most men might choose to look at it. It's an act of compassion, an act of mercy. That's a feminine trait. It's a nurturing trait that everybody naturally has.
Okay.
But a man who's not tapped into that part of him, he's not tapping into his feminine energy, which means he's also depriving himself of parts of his masculine energy because he needs that balance. His Y chromosome needs that balance with the X chromosome. And the second thing, a man is not a man until he has that woman that was made for him. And in Islam, to go even further, you're not even a Muslim until you get married. There's 2 things that complete your deen in Islam. The first one is cleaning up self. And you have to practice this in this formula because if you don't, you are likely to find yourself in a miserable situation where you're trying to get married first, but you're still in a discrepant state. The first part of Islam is you have to clean yourself from your tongue, from your mind, from your behavior, which is why I gotta stop hoeing. But
Ooh, help him. Help him. Help him.
And then after that is marriage. Once you've gotten married and after you cleaned yourself up, you're actually a Muslim now.
Okay. Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. A lot of brothers will clean themselves a little bit up and then get married because they want to complete their deen, because they want to please Allah. But if you marry a woman and you're not pleasing her, and I'm not even talking about the sexual part no more, I'm just talking about her being, if you're not pleasing her, you're not even pleasing Allah. Because the first part of marriage is with the two people. Both of them have to be satisfied. How do you look being happy because you didn't complete your religion, but you're depriving your woman of her happiness? That's why even Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, said, the man who treats his wife well is the best of men.
Rest on that.
Yeah. And again, this is why, brothers, y'all need to get this book, Dad, I Love You, How to Love an Absent Father. Because right now we're entering the age women want to be in their soft period. A woman raising a son by herself, children, period. But a son can't be soft because you're serving as a disciplinary, as the firm. You're not being a nurturer. You're not being a comforter. You're having to be the father figure. So you can't be soft. You can't be feminine because you got to take on a masculine role to make sure your son is masculine. But now he's confused because the masculine you're giving him is not actually masculinity. It's just what you believe it is. So, brothers, we need to be present in these women's lives. We need to be present sons so our women can start living in their softness and they can actually start being mothers. Right now, they're just being parents. They're not having a chance to be mothers.
Man, you said so much. You know what? Let me lean in here. I did not. Oh, we got comments today.
As long as they good comments, you know, I don't. If anybody cuss me out for anything I said,
Yeah. I got speak, preach, powerful. It's a lot of love in the comments. And thank you, Marion, for being my cheerleader. It's good to have um, people who have your back in things that you're working on, things that you're doing. That's my sister friend, and she's one of my sister friends that we met through these groups, just like you and I met. Never met in person, but Miami. We're gonna hook up sis next month. Um, is it next month? Whenever we're going to Miami to a conference. Um, yes, it's so important to surround yourself with people, like-minded people. Um, but back to the marriage, I take it to the basic elements. My podcast is based all around my 5 core passions: love, service, business, music, and food.
where the food at? I ain't ate nothing yet. Hold up, you should have been opened up with that. I would have asked for a sample or something. I know
I
you
did
offered me
not.
some water. I don't want to
I
eat. I
did
don't want to
not
eat no
cook
damn water.
today. I did not cook today. I had a really busy day, and I had a doctor's appointment. And
Okay, I'll let
that
you slide on the
that
doctor's
doctor,
appointment.
oh, I had the most ignorant doctor I've ever had in my life today. Um,
First, I gotta ask, are you all right? Like, is everything cool?
I don't know yet. I'm
Mm.
claiming it, so yes, but I had to go see a heart doctor because I had been having some issues. And this man walked in. I mean, I'm not sure if he looked at my chart beforehand to see my age, but he like chuckled when he walked in the room. So it threw me off already. And then he asked me a couple of questions, and then he said, "You are fine." He looked Nigerian. Said, "You are fine. You're not sick like those people out there." Huh? Y'all just charged me for you to do this? And he didn't even run the test that the primary doctor had ordered. So they want me to come back. I'm not paying him to come back to do the test that he should have done today. So I was thrown off by that. because it worked me up. I've waited for 2 weeks to get in with this specialist. So no, I didn't cook. My plan, though, for the record, people, when you come to I haven't named my space yet. I'm just kind of loosely calling it the Bubble Lounge. But when you get invited to come in person, the plan is to feed you. Yes, I'm putting it on the record. The plan is to feed you.
I mean, you should at least
So
bring me out like a piece of chocolate so you know your first guest
now
can,
I do have chocolate. I got a whole bowl of chocolate over there. I'm like the
What?
old. Oh my gosh, I'm really like the old lady. I have bowls of candy around my house.
What a bowl of chocolate
It's
is?
right over here. I got you some chocolate.
That's what I'm talking about. She should have been open up the food. I would have. Let me see.
That's a truffle. Yes,
That's a truffle.
that's a good. Yes.
Ah, that's it. All I need right there. That's all I need.
Yes.
Is the truffle.
I'm here to pop me in a word. I have been off of candy, so since I had to go to urgent care a couple weeks ago, I've been sugar free.
Just know she fed me with the white chocolate. Just know she fed me.
So
Yeah, she fed me now, so we good now. When she
we're
said
gonna
that
we're gonna
food, I
bring
said,
him
"Hold
back.
up."
So I used to have a restaurant and catering business, and I used to make sausage. So I'm a cook. I am for real a cook. I'm not a chef. I didn't go to school and get trained, but I went to the school of Miss Emma, and my grandmothers were all very, very, very good cooks. So yes, I can cook. I'm
Uh,
gonna feed my guests. So when I come and I invite you on, just know we're getting it in.
so I
Okay?
gotta ask, what do you out of all the dishes you know how to make? If you only had to make one of those for the rest of your life, which one would it be? Which would be that forever dish?
It's so hard to say, and not even being arrogant. I can cook. You know what? The one thing I can't cook. Don't come from my black card. I ain't trying to hear
Well,
nothing
if you
y'all
say
talking about.
chicken, I think you don't even want to go no further with this.
No, not chicken.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say like really that just would have.
I suck at making grits.
Oh nah, you don't have to feel bad. You know how many black people don't know how to make grits? I mean, it's different because you like 30 something, so
Who 30 something? That son of mine you just met is 29.
I mean, you might have started young. I don't know.
He's the fourth child that I bore.
What are you like a 40 something?
No,
What's your age? Hold up. I'm asking a forbidden question on here. So if any women listening, don't kill me for this. I'm asking a forbidden question. What is
I'm
your
over
age?
50.
Ah, yeah. If you don't know how to make grits, then yeah, I ain't gonna lie, you tripping. Like it would have been different. You
Y'all,
said you like,
y'all see that switch up?
yeah, I ain't gonna lie to you. Like if you would have said like 26, 27. I mean, we can understand grits and women bougie nowadays. So
Listen,
grits they look down
but
at.
guess what? I can throw down on any and everything else, and I can bake from scratch. I don't do nothing from no box.
Can you bake grits from scratch?
Listen, I make. Listen, here's my problem with grits. I learned how to cook from a woman that didn't measure anything. So I just I got measuring cups, but I just never made myself measure. And they just I don't know if I don't cook them long enough. I don't know. It's hit or miss. Sometimes they be banging. Sometimes you know.
Well, don't worry. Most people
But
ain't.
anything else, there is not a person in this world that has ever had my food that can tell you that my food is not good. And I'm
Well,
good at creating recipes.
well, for your first guest on here, I got to be left in the to be continued
You're going to
box.
definitely get an invitation back. If nothing else, you got an invitation to a cookout or something. Because that is definitely part of my plan. Food, service, love, business, and music. So you're my first guest in studio.
Hey,
And
say that again. I'm your what?
you are my first guest live in house.
Man, peace and blessings. Hey, I didn't even know that till I got here. I'm thinking I need to set. I didn't even know she put me under so much pressure. I got to set the bar. Now I got to make it to where I
You're the
don't enjoy
first.
working
Now,
with nobody like I worked with him.
I've done my lives, but it was always split screen. But you are the first in person live guest. in any format. I didn't even my pre-recorded. I had nope. I take that back. I did have one pre-recorded, but live. You're my first live.
Man, peace and blessings. Hey, I hope it's been a pleasure working with me.
It has, and I'm looking forward to continuing, staying connected and following your journey. First of all, let me say that after your 7 years in that cage, I am proud of you coming home and doing what you need to do. And you're working, you're connected with your son, you're building yourself back, you're still searching, um, you're building yourself up spiritually, you have a plan, you're creating. I'm proud of that. Young man, I am proud of you. If nobody else tell you, I am proud of
Yeah, let's not call it a cage. Let's call it what it rightfully is for my setting. For me, it was a womb.
you.
Most dudes, when they go to prison, prison becomes one or two things for a person. It becomes your womb or it becomes your tomb. Most guys go in prison and lose their life. They don't even have to physically die, but they lose their life in there. A lot of other brothers go in there. That's where they finally get their life at. For me, I stopped feeling incarcerated years before I ever got out of prison. I had received a letter from my godfather. He stated when he went to prison, it took him years for him to realize his incarceration started before he ever went to prison.
Mm.
Talk to anybody that's in prison. You'll find out they were in prison before they ever walked in one.
You were incarcerated long before you ever went to prison. That's profound. That is profound. There's so many people, and I never thought of it like that. There's so many people walking around here incarcerated, but they're walking in the streets. Wow. Hmm.
Prison is mental. Like while I was incarcerated, I found out the hardest thing to do was think. And not even think, because everybody thinks, it's think constructively.
Hmm.
Find out there most guys just don't know how to think constructively. Not because they don't have the ability, they just actually don't know how to. And you go in prison, most prisons are not helping people.
Not at all. Hmm.
Not even close.
They're just warehousing. Hmm.
So when you're in there, you have to find out how strong you are real fast. And I'm not talking about physical, I'm talking about just straight mental. I've watched men become dudes' girlfriends because they didn't have the means to take care of themselves no more. They didn't have the
Wow.
mental capacity to want to do it anymore. So they said, I'm just gonna let a man take care of me at the expense of my manhood. I watched dudes kill themselves in prison. I've watched dudes kill each other in prison. One of my homeboys got his throat slit by a transsexual that was high off meth. And it didn't kill him only because he missed his jugular vein by a couple centimeters.
Wow.
So you go in there, and if you can't think, if you don't have the capacity to be mentally strong, you're not going to survive. You're not going to live. Like, you find out who's built for prison for who can make it out alive. Dudes that can't make it out alive are not built for prison. Even surviving is not the same. You're not built for prison. If you can live and walk out with your sanity, like you see guys like Wall Street Trapper, Wallow 267, they were built for prison because they had the capacity to live, leave, and stay out. People that don't make it out or people that make it out and go back in, they're not built for it. Because it's a mind game.
I don't see nobody is built for that
If,
mess. Ooh.
even you see the gladiators in there, they're not built for it. Because if they were, if it's a game, you know how to play and win. Winning is getting out and staying out.
That part. So, are you doing any type of community service, any mentoring, anything like that?
You talking about
To
prescribed by the parole or by choice?
a choice.
I'm involved with a few projects. One of them is when I got out of prison, because of the disdain I had for my father in my earlier life, I never connected with my Ethiopian side. But the last few years in prison, when I had became privy to the war that was going on in Ethiopia, I felt this deep connection that I now have to get to know my roots.
When I got out, I immediately went to the Ethiopian Center. Every few weekends, I go over there and help them with their community service projects over there. The Muslims, we do our community service projects, especially me prospecting being the nation of Islam now. You're definitely gonna be involved in the community,
Yeah,
but you need to be.
absolutely. Okay, that's dope. Okay. So, anything else that you would like the people to know about you? Where can they find you and follow you and support you?
You can add me on Facebook, Ibrahim A. Malesi. That's IBRAHIM space capital A space MALLESC. My Instagram name is Nukpu underscore IM NUKPU underscore IAM. Nukpu is a Kemetic term that means I am.
Nice, nice, nice. And where's your book going to be available?
We're gonna make it available on Amazon. We're gonna have a site where you can publish it, buy it from me directly. Right now, we're still working on the last touches of the website, and that information will be provided. I will give to you so you can give to your audience for anybody that wants to follow. It's gonna be available on Amazon. My main reason for wanting to do that though is because I want my book to make it in the prisons. A lot of prisons
Yes.
do not allow books to go inside there if it's not straight from
Right,
a known publisher.
right, right. I am definitely aware of that. Um, and I'm not sure if he still does. My oldest son used to have a book program where he provides books to inmates, sending them books. And that's how I learned that it has to come from directly from a source like that.
Some prisons aren't as strict. It's hit or miss. Like in Georgia, they're a little bit more stricter. Arkansas, not really. So it's hit and miss, just depending on where you're at.
Gotcha.
But I want it to be available on Amazon because I do want those brothers to have access to that. If they family members want to send it to them, me personally, if I could send one to free to brothers of prisons, I would. But since I know how the prisons operate, I make it available so if they have a family member that wanting to send it to them, or if a brother wants to order it himself. I've been to prison, so we have means of ordering books ourselves.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank you for joining me. I'm honored to host you. I will definitely cook the next time you are here.
Do I get to request my meal?
Sure.
You don't tell me that. I'm finna test this theory. You don't tell me that. You should have just said I'm a surprise you.
Only reason I'm gonna stand up to that challenge is because I didn't feed you today.
Okay, but
Yeah.
a mistress gesture. I like it. I like it. That's the
Yeah.
opposite of the gentleman gesture. I like it.
Yeah. So everybody, I want to remind you if you're tuning in on Instagram or Facebook, please go to my YouTube channel, Blowing Bubbles Podcast on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like, watch those videos. We're trying to get those followers up. We're trying to get those subscribers and watch hours. We want to be legitimate in this podcast space. And in the next couple of weeks, so I'm building out my website. Hopefully, it'll be done in the next couple of days. I am working diligently. I'll be launching on podcast platforms as well. So show me some love. Go to Blowing Bubbles Podcast, everything. That's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. All right. So we're going to wrap it up. Any last words you have, I am?
Again, my name is I am. My favorite slogan to always use is peace and blessings. And I want to leave this with y'all. Do not be lost in the identity of who you were, preventing yourself from being who you are. And that is the whole concept of I am. Be who you are, not who you were or who you think others think you're supposed to be. I read this statement one time before, and it really stuck me as one of the things that made me comfortable accepting my name. The statement goes, there's three type of people in this world: who you think you are, who others think you are, and who you really are. You find out who you really are by the obstacles you're faced with, by the way you think, and by the way you act. Always be who you are because you lose more when you try to be something that you're not. Again, my name is I Am. Peace and blessings be upon all of you.
Man, nothing more to say. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate you. I love you. And we'll see you back next Wednesday, live at 8:45. Stay popping.
And y'all hold it against her too about my meal. I ain't gonna let that go.
Bye, y'all.